So we're outside the federal building again in Bangor, Maine. This is where Senator Susan Collins' offices are located here in Bangor. The street getting killed. Much larger crowd than when we were here a few days ago.
Yes. Go home and make sure my dog comes. Why you say I went home to get the dog. I was worried about it. So they're gonna park. Well, he Brown. We have them. Yeah, we can do that.
Impeach Kavanaugh! 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 Impeach Kavanaugh!
Really? You see the lady in the handmade? Drive right in the handmade costumes. I got those on the 4 road. And I got everything. You know what I did?
Again, this is outside Senator Susan Collins' office in Bangor, Maine. People started to gather about 15 minutes ago. This event is supposed to be, according to their Facebook event page, going on until about 4:30 this afternoon. Much larger crowd than when we were here a few days ago. What would you like to say to Senator Susan Collins right now if she's listening? I'm doing this for our WERU Facebook Live.
Oh, I'd like to say, Senator Collins, think about the women in Maine and the country and the world that's looking on. We want you to do the right thing. It's not a fit for our Supreme Court and for our country right now, regardless of this, all the sexual innuendo accompanying him. I think just his demeanor, his way he spoke so disrespectfully, and lies that he told.
You're nodding.
Yes, I do not believe that he has the demeanor to sit on the Supreme Court in any way, shape, or form, regardless of outcomes of investigations, what happened 35 years ago, his current practices, and even before the allegations came up, his judicial record, for me, is not a fit on the Supreme Court. He denies rights of adults with disabilities, has written decisions taking away their rights, and I am concerned that he would back a decision taking away women's health care rights as well.
Either one of you want to say your name and where you're from?
Emily Mahana, Lubec, Maine.
I'm Leanne Grogan from Bangor, Maine.
Thank you. What would you like to say to Susan Collins if you had a chance? Either of you want to record a message? I'm doing this for WERU's Facebook page.
Just vote no.
Because I've said that to her.
Agree. We can't have liars on the Supreme Court. That's my message.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a message to Susan Collins if she happens to be watching?
Listen to your constituents.
Any of you want to say what your names are and where you're from?
Lubec,
I'll
Maine.
say
You're from Lubec?
Yeah.
Bangor.
Bangor.
Phil Locke, Bangor, lived here winter and summer for 50 years.
Thank you.
Birch Harbor.
And what would you like to say to Susan Collins if she's listening?
I want to encourage her to stand up, be brave, step out of the red tin Republican soldiers that are just coming together, has been you can't have a bully in the White House without passive enablers, and that's what we have. I want to encourage her to stand up for women, but also he did lie. He lied about the George Bush paperwork, and it isn't so much the paperwork, it's lying. And lying about his way of drinking, lying about a lot of things, thinking he's a Boy Scout, and he really basically wasn't. And it's really sad. The craziness about the Clinton thing, the belligerence, the insult to the woman senator. I mean, there's just so many things that you don't even have to choose to add the sexual assault. You can find it right there in the hearing. That's all you need. And Susan Collins is lying herself to think that FBI investigation was thorough. And also, she is lying because she said she would vote against Kavanaugh if he lied. There is plenty of lies for her to handle and just do it. She's got to be brave. She could be a 2020 nominee. You have to stand out in a crowd if you want to be the president. So if she wants to be a nominee for 2020, she will get a lot of votes on rally people, crossing lines in the parties. I'm just so shocked that she isn't brave enough yet to stand up for this. She has so many possible positives for herself. So I really feel sad about the whole thing.
Thank you. What's your name?
Ruth Hurd, Birch Harbor.
Thank you. Scan back out so you can see the sign she's holding. Hey, Peter. So I'm doing Facebook Live for the WERU Facebook page. What would you say to Susan Collins if you had a chance to have her ear for a minute?
Well, I respect Susan Collins. I don't always agree with her. In fact, I was against what she said about the Iraq War, But I do respect her. I do realize that she's in a tough position. But when it gets down to politics, it's not about politics. It's about women's lives, safety, the whole thing about... I was just trying to think of the organizations. I get nervous here, Amy. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Are you going to be able to cut out some of this?
Well, this is actually live, but don't worry about it.
Okay. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
it is. Well, I'm not going to regret that I did this demonstration, any demonstration, speaking out, no matter what, because I'd rather be on that side of than to say, gee, I don't want to do it. It's a waste of time, because it's not. This is a here and now, so I'm a man who is very much against Kavanaugh, very much. He needs extreme help, and he's lying, and he's cheating, and he's blaming everyone else, but where the responsibility lies, him.
Well, I've already said your first name. Do you want to say where you're from?
I'm from Bangor, Maine.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Amy.
So again, I'm outside the Federal Building here on Harlow Street in Bangor, Maine. This event just started at 3:30. Quite a large turnout.
Replace Republicans!
2 or 3 times more people than were here a few days ago.
Repeal! Replace Republicans!
Hi, I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU and just asking people if they want to say what they would say to Susan Collins. You may have already made phone calls or emails,
I have.
but what have you been saying to her?
Please vote against this nomination. This is not, apart from the sexual stuff altogether, the man has proved, I think, himself unsuitable for any judgeship, never mind the highest one in the land. He has lied, he behaved very arrogantly, very rudely, complete lack of control, partiality. There are many reasons that he is just not suitable. So please, Collins, don't vote for him.
Thank you. What's your name and where are you from?
Marge Lawrence. I'm from Hendon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
people passing by. Doing Facebook Live for the WERU Facebook page. Does anybody want to say what you would say to Susan Collins, or what you have been saying if you've been emailing her or messaging her?
Vote no. Kavanaugh is unfit to be a Supreme Court justice. Please vote no.
Nods all around. Anybody want to add anything?
Liars can't be judges.
Yeah. Politicians shouldn't be judged.
What's that?
Politicians should not be judges.
Find me one piece of legislature that mandates what a man can do with their body.
Does anybody want to say what your names are and where you came from?
Stephanie from Herman.
Anybody else?
Monique from Bangor. Kay from Hamden.
Faith from Hamden.
Rissa from Orono.
Catherine from Orno.
Orno, thank you.
Kavanaugh has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Kavanaugh has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Kavanaugh has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Kavanaugh has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Kavanaugh has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.
Try to go get a
Kavanaugh has got to go. Ho, ho.
across the street to get a wife. Getting hit.
Okay. Kavanaugh lied under oath. Kavanaugh lied under oath. Kavanaugh lied under oath. Kavanaugh lied under oath. Kavanaugh has got to go. Kavanaugh has got to go.
Trying to make sure I don't get hit by a car.
Line disqualified.
Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified. Brett lied disqualified.
I'm doing a Facebook Live for WERU. Do any of you want to say a few words about what you would say to Susan Collins, or what you maybe have been saying to her if you've been writing to her or calling her?
I'd be happy to. I've called her or gone to see her office just about every day. I mean, I've gone in, but just there's so many reasons to vote no, and just the hearing alone, aside from all of Kavanaugh's right-wing outrageous things, and the sexual assault allegations, it's his lies, his constant lies, his demeanor, his partisanship. He just is opposite from what he says a judge should be. He is an embarrassment.
Thank you. What's your name and where are you from?
Bobby, B-O-B-B-I-E, Goldman. I'm from Mount Desert, town of Mount Desert.
History is watching you.
Oh, they closed all the curtains in their office.
History is watching you. History is watching you.
I'll do anything you want.
All right. Well, I'm doing Facebook Live on WERU, and just asking people if they've communicated with Senator Collins already, or even if you haven't, what message you're trying to convey to her, besides what's on your signs. What would you say to her if you actually had her ear for a few minutes?
Susan, please let common sense take the place of partisanship. That's what I would say.
And please stand up for us women. Somebody needs to do it.
Do you want to say your names and where you're from?
Verle from Penobscot.
Daryl from Penobscot.
Grandma,
Look at that.
how do you spell out?
Thanks,
How do
Dave.
you spell outside?
It's getting crowded here.
Oh, I know.
Quite a turnout.
How do you spell
Is this our future?
outside? Spell outside.
That's a good one.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out where I left off at the line. Please do.
All right. I'm a family practice doctor, and I've been calling and writing Susan Collins all the time and telling her that so many women experience sexual violence. People close to me and so many of my patients, they don't always disclose, they hardly ever disclose immediately. Often it's years later, decades later, but the emotions are just as raw. And there is absolutely no way that a predator should be on the Supreme Court. And even without that, there is so much about Brett Kavanaugh that does not belong in the Supreme Court. He cracked under pressure. He was angry and belligerent, particularly with the women on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He appears to have a drinking problem, as far as I'm concerned, and is extremely volatile. And even if you took the sexual aggression out of it, he is not suitable. But you put it all together and he is entirely unsuitable, and I could not believe that she would go anywhere near voting yes for this man.
Thank you. What's your name and where are you from?
My name's Mary Dudzik, and I'm from Bar Harbor, Maine.
Thank you.
In the car.
Hey, I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU. Do you want to say a few words about what you'd like to say to Susan Collins if you have a chance?
Well, I just want to grow up in a world where, you know, women are treated equally as everyone else, really. And that our opinion matters.
Thank you. Thanks. What's your name and where are you from?
I'm Bailey Joyce, and I'm from Blue Hill.
That was a long time ago, I guess.
Doing Facebook Live for WERU. Do you want to say a few words about what you'd like to say to Senator Collins?
Yes, I'd like for Senator Collins to protect the judiciary. The appointment of a man who lacks judicial temperament, who has obviously perjured himself, who has, before the assault allegations, there were enough things about Mr. Kavanaugh to say no on this court. If she doesn't say no to this, then she's putting our whole democracy at risk, because there will be no trust of our whole judiciary because of the things that he has said and done.
Thank you. What's your name?
My name's Gail Leiser, and I'm from Bar Harbor.
Get your sign if I can. Thank you, Gail.
Instead of facing out that way.
I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU. Does anybody want to say a few words about what you either maybe have already communicated to Senator Collins or what you would like to?
Yes. So we were just up in Senator Collins' office to speak with one of her staffers, and we wanted to get the point across that we could argue about what he said or she said, and we could talk about whether this man has the composure to be a Supreme Court justice. But what really disturbs me is there's 100,000 pages plus of documents that the senators haven't seen, so they're essentially voting on an unknown who is going to really influence the court for decades to come if he's appointed, and that's very disturbing.
What's your name and where are you from?
Eric Stein, Bar Harbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were nodding too. Did you say a few
I'm
words?
good. I'm good. I've said a lot and done a lot this week. Super frustrated, especially with, Susan Collins' original stand as she was hired by the people to defend women's rights, civil rights, reproductive rights, pro-choice. And she's turned her back on us, and Democrat or Republican, it doesn't really matter. She's turned her back on us, and I'm disappointed, but I'm still hopeful that she'll come out on the right side of this vote and swing some of her Republican pals to come along.
Thanks. What's your name?
Sheila Edison Tremont.
Thank you.
Well said.
No, thank you.
Thanks. Police have come out, but it doesn't look like they're asking me to move. Everything looks pretty amicable still. Sarah, would you like to say a few words?
I'm just keep waiting for the day that we don't have to do this anymore. When they
What's that? You're hoping for the day we don't have to
we don't have to do this anymore. When they actually look at all people as equal, women as equal, instead of the way they've been putting Dr. Ford down is just unbelievable. And when Lindsey Graham makes a comment last night on TV that, when you drive through a trailer park and have a $100 bill, this is what you get. How dare he? We don't have a voice in our own country, and our own senator isn't listening to us. I am very grateful for Senator King. He's a true man standing up for the people of Maine and the women in this country.
You want to say, I already said your name, but you want to say where you're from?
Oh, I'm from Hamden.
Thanks.
Thank
Get
you.
your sign in. Thank you. Thank you. Again, we're outside the federal building in Bangor, Maine, Carlos Street, where it sounds like some of the folks have been up to Senator Collins' office. There's a much larger turnout than when we were here a few days ago. People obviously mobilized by recent news, including the return of the FBI report and Senator Collins' reaction this afternoon. She has apparently decided that it was a thorough investigation, and people are thinking that may signal how she's planning to vote.
I went ahead and
I'm going to have to break up any conversations that people have.
Somebody get real up.
Hey. All right, so she's putting a sign of her face. I'm taking that as a signal she doesn't want to talk to me. How about you, young man? Would you like to say a few words about why you're out here?
Well,
and what you would say to Senator
obviously,
Collins if you had a chance?
I was saying, I could tell he was a liar 3 weeks ago from the initial hearing, where it was brought out that he lied to some other agency. I forget what it was.
Do you want to say what your name is and where you're from?
Yeah, Ron Staples, Holden, Maine.
Thanks, Ron. Should I take for the fact that you're hiding behind your sign that you don't want to say anything? Okay. I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU, so if anybody would like to say a few words about what you maybe have already conveyed to Senator Collins or what you would if you had a chance.
I've already talked to her a couple times. I'm a psychologist at Acadia, and I work with adolescents, many of whom have been sexually assaulted and abused as children, and they rely on me to listen, and a lot of them are honestly very scared to say anything because they feel like they won't be believed. And I would like Susan Collins to show us that they will be believed and heard.
You want to say what your first name is and where you're from?
I'm Claire, and I'm from Bangor.
Thank you.
Liar, liar, Kavanaugh. Liar, liar, Kavanaugh. Liar, liar, Kavanaugh. Liar, liar, Kavanaugh. No. Liar, liar, Kavanaugh. Liar, liar, Kavanaugh.
I'd like to say a few words. I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU's Facebook page and just asking people either what messages you've already conveyed or that you would like to convey to Senator Collins if you had the opportunity.
I wear my sign that says money doesn't talk, it swears. And I think Susan isn't listening. She should not take any more money from those people.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Judy, and I'm from Belfast.
Thank you, Judy. Either of you like to say a few words?
Yeah. Give me a moment.
Okay. That's okay. We get a picture of your signs. You're gathering your thoughts. So far, everyone who's gone by in the street has been very positive and waving and honking. Mostly. Have there been a few negative ones?
Just want the time to be taken to have somebody who's truthful.
What's your name and where are you from?
Stephen Rodewald, Eastport.
Thank you.
I still believe Christine. I believe Anita.
I'm doing Facebook Live for WERU. Would any of you be willing to say a few words about the message that you have for Susan Collins?
My name is Jane Ashworth. I live in Bernard, Maine. My message for Susan Collins is, Senator, please vote no on Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Thank you. How about you?
Hi, my name is Paige Nygaard, and I live in Bar Harbor, Maine. And my message is listen to your constituents or we will vote you out.
Thank you.
Oh, I lost my sign.
Wait, you can have your sign.
Oh, here we go. Oh, hi,
I
Jill.
took it when you
There we
got
go. Great.
your...
Couldn't find your picture.
Don't mind me.
I'm doing a Facebook Live for WERU and asking people if they're willing to say a few words about what you are trying to convey to Senator Collins? Maybe you've already sent her messages, or what your presence out here says? Anybody willing to say?
Well, I don't live in Maine anymore. I lived here for a long time, and this pretty much says it all. I believe the free press, and lies disqualified this guy. If it was me, I wouldn't just be kicking stones down the road because of a bad job interview. I'd expect to be going to jail for lying to Congress, and it's easily proved that this guy's done it. So they can come up with somebody that'll suit everybody, I think. We have the resources in this country, don't you think?
Thank you. What's your name? Where are you from?
Bob Weber, Virginia. Culpeper, Virginia.
Thank you. Either of you want to add anything?
Jill Weber from Bar Harbor. I've been calling every day since the nomination. I've been up here a fair amount. I've talked to the staff, and I'm not unwilling to give up because this is so wrong for our country. If none of the reasons that we've been talking about for the last few months have been convincing, what we saw in his testimony last week disrespected our whole system, and he can't sit on the court.
Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm not really a spokeswoman.
Oh, no, you don't have to be. Just what message are you trying to convey to Susan Collins?
I just feel that she needs to deny this nomination.
Where are you from?
Carmel.
Carmel. And what's your name?
Eric.
Sorry, did I interrupt you? Were you going to add something else there?
No.
Okay.
No,
Get your sign too. Thank you.
Right. Well, we'll be in touch, and but you're one we really want to talk to. So,
I want to interrupt their conversation. Have I already spoken with you?
No, but I will not.
You don't want to say anything on there? Okay. All right, I will interrupt though, because you're at the end of the line. I'm on doing Facebook Live for WERU and just asking people what messages either they've been conveying to Susan Collins through your phone calls and messages, or what you would like to say to her if you had an opportunity. Willing to do that?
I just thought his performance at his hearing was the test of his character, that he failed. He didn't, he lied. He could have just said, I drank a lot like everyone else, and I regret what might have happened, and I'm sorry. He did not do that. He acted like he was Lily White. And he was very unjudge-like in his behavior. Partisan.
Crybaby. What did you say?
Crybaby.
Crybaby, yeah. What's your name and where are you from?
Doris Plummer from Bar Harbor.
And how about you?
Sarah Whalen from Sullivan.
Get your sign. Did you want to add anything?
Sure. Star Gilmartin from Trenton, and I actually have been fighting against this nominee for a while. One of the many issues beside Roe v. Wade was also his pro-business stance. He had, out of 300 decisions while he was in the D.C. Circuit Court, only 2 were pro-environment out of 300. So I'm quite concerned. I love the Maine environment. That's why I moved here. So that's one of many reasons why I object to this nominee.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to scan out of the crowd here again real quick, just to give you a sense of how much the numbers keep growing here. This is scheduled to go on until at least 4:30. More people keep showing up probably as they're getting out of work. And there's one of the that's the only negative person I've heard so far going by on the road. Most of the people driving by in the cars have been supportive. You have people who, at any protest, their knee-jerk reaction, even if they don't know what it's about, is to yell at the protesters. Something I can certainly attest to, having covered many, many of these. We'll go down the line one more time and give you a sense of how many people are out here.
Still, as far as I'm concerned, it's public property because
So this is the message from folks in Bangor to Senator Susan Collins outside her office here tonight.